How are you feeling in the last few weeks? I mean, it's been a lot, and I saw on Facebook you announced or I'm sorry, on LinkedIn that you announced his passing, and
Yeah.
then you sent the newsletter out. And how has all that been for you? Has that been helpful or?
Um, it felt strange, sort of writing almost like a obituary in a way, for him. But he touched so many people's lives, and I think because he was so loving and did so many things, like he
Yeah.
just so many people knew him. And so, I mean, I think there's probably still people I have not contacted or have forgotten to contact to let them know. I was trying to use as many channels as possible just to ensure people had visibility into what had happened.
Yeah.
But I look back and I also look at, what I posted on LinkedIn, and I sort of did it in a state of anger, actually.
Oh
Um,
no.
Mainly because I was upset, and this has now created sort of a new crusade for me.
Yeah.
With work, I felt like there was a lack of I don't know if it was understanding or care of what I was experiencing. And I started to
Oh,
do research and realized many companies do not have bereavement policies that cover pets. And so I was forced to use vacation, and I was really annoyed because I was like, this is no vacation.
right.
And and then, by the
Say the
way,
least.
I've been, really struggling for the last 2 years being a full-time caregiver, also trying to be a full-time employee, and just all the responsibilities in life. And so it was just really frustrating to me, and I think I sort of took out my anger on LinkedIn because I didn't know how else to
Yeah.
express myself.
And well, that didn't come across.
Okay. Good.
I wasn't like going, oh, I mean, certainly, we are aggravated by things and we get like sensitive to, oh no, what did I do? But, you hear a lot of people speaking out on social media, and I think especially on LinkedIn, anything that came up as a work-related stressor, I mean, I don't know, at least I mean, we all get it. So,
Yeah,
um,
I think, and a lot of people, even at work, we have a Slack channel for people that have dogs and cats. And so
oh,
I put Toby's, sort of story in there, and
uh,
people are aware of the nonprofit and why I started it.
yeah,
And, and I asked, I was like, what do you all think about the fact that we don't have a bereavement policy that covers pets?
right.
Would you be in favor of, would you show support for trying to make a change and request this? And so many people were like, yes, we didn't even realize it wasn't included. And so this is my new hill to climb is, can I
Ah,
can I enable some type of change in policy so people don't have to take vacation, even
uh,
if it's only a day or two? I think that's more
right,
reasonable.
right.
Um, so
Well,
yeah.
that really is, you are a crusader in so many ways. So I'm somehow not surprised, but has that
No,
has that been your Slack channel been a great source of support? I mean, you found another inspiration.
yeah, I think it is. I think it sort of reminds me, life is not just work, right? It takes up a lot of our time, and it's what we do, but there's so much more to life than that. And what's really helped me more so than the Slack channel at work over the last month is a couple things. I think friends and family have really stepped up and shown that they are there for me, whether it's bringing by some food or just checking in to see how I'm doing. I've gotten the most beautiful cards in the mail, including the one that AHELP sent, that's been really touching. I mean, there were Toby's original vet in Redmond that we haven't seen since he was diagnosed with lymphoma they even sent a card, and I was like, how did they even know? It was just really beautiful. So I think that has helped. I think my faith has helped. I've been doing some Bible study and some prayer groups, and that's been really, I feel, less alone, trying to make sort of sense of the loss, and it's helped me to realize, Toby in many ways was a blessing. I think that he helped me personally in my life over the last 10 years. A lot of changes have happened. Big sort of milestones, but then also, his suffering, and not to be cheesy like Jesus, but his suffering in a way has led to so many good things, in the nonprofit being started, and all the things that have happened because of it. And I think, wow, had he not gotten sick and shown resilience and just put up with everything that I made him do or not do, what would have happened? I don't think this organization would have even been started. And the organization, the support group that I run on Tuesdays and I attend on Thursdays, that's also actually been really helpful, because I'm talking every week with people around the country who are dealing with cancer right now. And so I feel like, okay, because of my experience, I'm able to offer some advice, or just, be a shoulder to cry on, or, someone to listen. And sometimes that's all they need. And there are others that join that are in the exact same position I'm in, where their dog passed from the cancer. And so we now have this bond that we share, and that, we can check in on each other. And there's been a couple ladies in the group that I've become close to. They don't live in Washington. One lives in New York, one lives in Massachusetts. And we just, we check in on each other. How are you doing? How are things going?
Okay.
So,
Oh, good. Oh, wow. So I hear support in a lot of different facets of your life. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah, and yeah, it's lovely that you have a support group where you can you can reach people really where they're at, and
yeah,
give them help in a way that is really like practical needs, you know. Um,
right.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's fabulous. I really admire that, and your story is, I'm sure this story is going to be inspirational to a lot of people too that read it. So, um, are there, would you say in his final days, as he was approaching death and you knew that that was imminent, are there particular moments of comfort or connection that might have stood out for you? I mean, were there more? You can't always, you can't. It's not always something we do to reach out with grieving pet parents, to say, my dog is dying. So, then where do you go? What was help for you? You said your faith.
Yeah, faith was very helpful. Um, I remember that final week, he was having a lot of diarrhea. He really stopped eating. And because I had sort of taken the time previously with some of the work I was doing to sort of know what to look for, it helped, because I was very attuned to what was going
Good.
on. And I always made the effort ever since his prostate cancer diagnosis in April to just be very, like, he came first. So I didn't really do anything that could not include him. I canceled so many plans and things because I was like, no, I want to focus on him, and these are his last few months. I don't know how much time he's going to get, but I know it's not going to be a lot.
Yeah.
So, I took time off from work. And we just prioritized what he liked to do. I mean, that's sort of what we did every day. Um,
Good. That's
and
lovely.
I don't know, people might think that's strange, but I just feel so glad that I was able to do that, because I
Yeah.
also, and this may also feel weird, but I don't have any regrets. Like, I look back and I think I did everything I could have done, and at some point the end was going to happen, and that was inevitable, but I don't feel any guilt. I feel
Good.
no regrets. I feel very fortunate that things sort of ended the way they did, and that I was in control of the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all good. That's really resonating with me because I too felt a lot of those things myself, and with my pets who were the inspiration too, for
Yeah.
me to start AHELP. And so I have a dear friend whose name is Amir Shanan, who's the founder of the basically the father of animal hospice, they call him. So, and in my experiences with him, he brought up a saying that I've adopted, um, saying that we help people forge their path of least regrets.
Mm.
And what I'm hearing from you, you even use the word regret, that
Yeah.
through your planning and your processing beforehand. So in that like tender time that we call anticipatory grief,
Yeah.
right? Which you know of, that you felt more prepared for the loss, and then
Yeah.
that eventually helped you as as he was actually dying, which is like the most tender, vulnerable place. And then we see less regret and that nasty guilt that can come
Yeah.
if you felt like you didn't do enough, right? But
Yeah.
you did all the things. So,
I tried.
yeah,
And I think, being in that support group that I run, that also really sort of was very informative because there was a lot of people over the many months that it's been running that have joined that do have regrets, that were very vocal about what went wrong or what they wish they had done differently. And so I sort of had that in the back of my mind, and I was able to learn from, what their experiences were. So that really was also very helpful. Other people's pain, unfortunately, was like helpful for me to realize what to do or not to do.
right. Yeah. Well, there's nothing like a firsthand experience or stories that you've heard. I mean, we know storytelling is so compelling. So, yeah, well, I'm so glad that came at that time. I mean, I really admired when I first learned about Toby's Hope. I mean, many organizations like ours are founded like in retrospect, like looking
Mm.
back. I'm inspired, and now I have space. And I was actually like, oh my gosh, Toby's still alive. I mean, I didn't, the fact that you were able to like juggle all those things and what you're describing now, I mean, you didn't get like head down, on the organization, and then, and forget about what you were really there for, is
Yeah.
him. So
Yeah, I mean,
really admire that.
I think he, it was really necessary for me to do this like a year ago because I was really, as you mentioned, anticipatory grief. I was
Uh-huh.
struggling with that. And I think faith again sort of came and said to me, this is something you should do because this is going to help you through your own journey and struggle that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
So it
Yes.
was almost selfish in a way because it was really
Mm.
intended. It was not intended just to help me, but that was sort of a side effect, I guess,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
this whole journey was it helped me in my mental health. Just being able to feel like I'm doing something useful and helpful, and I loved that he was, a part of the journey for the last year. He got to go to a lot of the events, he got to meet a lot of people,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and
For
I
sure.
think people got to know, his story and why we started it all. So
Yeah. Yeah. And just the fact that we could actually, because I came to your last
yeah,
major fundraiser. I think it was your last one. You have a
yeah,
lot. um, and the fact that we were able to actually see him and touch him, and that was really special, and that he came. That he
yeah,
came. If he wasn't feeling up to it, you probably wouldn't. If he was having a bad day, you might not have made
yeah,
that same decision. And the fact that he could just stand up for it. I'm sure he did it a lot for you, and that's the unconditional love, right? That we all
yeah, yeah.
adore. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that final week of his was not that long after the event,
No.
and I remember people saying, "Wow, like what happened?" Because he looked okay, and I was like, "Yeah, looks are one thing, but yeah, I mean, he could
Yeah.
still go for a walk, and he
Yeah.
could still, do a lot of things, but." If you look closely at what's going on in the day to day, it's
Right.
not the same. And I was glad too that he made it to that event. I sort of in the back of my mind was wondering if he was going to make it to August. When he first got diagnosed in April, I didn't think he was going to make it past May because he looked pretty bad. But it seemed like I don't know, it seemed like he got better, and then yeah, it started to
Yeah.
just go downhill. So
Yeah. Were you actually doing curative treatments for him? Did you ever choose that path, or did you decide palliative care was the best
yeah,
choice?
so when he first got diagnosed, we were told the options, and one of the options was chemotherapy. So we did go for one session, and it really brought back a lot of the memories of what he had to go through in 2023 with the lymphoma diagnosis. And he hates going to the vet. And then there's all the side effects that you just
Mhm.
never know what's going to happen. And then he
Right.
got towards the end, he was just really uncooperative when it came to taking any type of medicine. Like I
Mhm.
could not get him, regardless of how I tried to sneak pills, like he would
I
not
totally get
take
it.
them. So I
They
just didn't
sniff them, they
want
sniff them out somehow.
yeah, I didn't want his final months again, like however long it was going to be. I just didn't want him to be miserable going back and forth to the vet, which he didn't like doing, dealing with side effects, forcing him to take pills. So after that first chemo session, it was hard because I was like, I can afford to do the treatment, and if it's going to buy him more time, I wish I could get him to do it. But it was more about his quality of life. I just didn't want him to be just not himself.
Right.
So I had made the decision pretty early on that we were just going to go the palliative process.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's, yeah, I think, well, you're wise. You're very wise. And you did have that, and you had that experience with the lymphoma, right? So
Yeah.
he really had been through, he'd been through a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He had done 6 months of the chemo. And that was a roller coaster ride. And again, I think I also thought maybe a little bit selfishly about myself. And I was like, I don't want to go through that experience again either because, there's good days and there's bad days. And I was like, maybe we just focus on having good days and
Yeah,
doing
right.
stuff he likes, making memories, as my therapist had said, live in the present
Yes,
and just do that. And I'm
yes.
I'm glad that's how we spent the time.
Yeah, yeah. And that's great. That's one of the things that people struggle with is, did I do enough? Did I do too much? And that kind of a thing can pull them out of they're just getting down on the floor or up on the bed or wherever they are and just letting them, holding
Yeah.
them tight, and um, yeah, I know I've been through both of those myself personally, and that was even with an understanding of palliative care, like I made the decision to just go too long, and I it's yeah, so I admire you being able to share that. And so, did you, I guess, from your perspective now, looking back, do you have any, do you have resources or support that would have made the journey even easier for you? I mean, even in looking back on like the lymphoma, the time during which you were treating him for lymphoma, were there support resources that you wish you had had at that time?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, during the lymphoma, I think that was the hardest time because I really didn't know anything. I mean, I didn't even know what lymphoma was. And then I didn't know anything about dogs getting cancer. So I felt like the diagnosis came out of nowhere and I was so unprepared. And then unfortunately, I think like most people, you just end up going onto Google, typing
Totally.
in all these things.
Dr.
And then,
Google. Hmm.
it opens up like Pandora's box of information, and I didn't know what to believe. I didn't know what was real, what was fake. It was just
Right.
so overwhelming. And then I didn't feel like I had good resources to at least get good information on what types of care are available, what what does, what are the side effects of these different treatments? I didn't know anything about clinical trials. I didn't know there were clinical trials. Would he have, been a candidate? Things like that. And then I think from the mental health side, I felt my immediate reaction was, he's going to die and I don't know what to do. And I just immediately was in this place of anticipatory grief. I was really stressed out. I became pretty like non-functional. Like I remember talking to my personal trainer. I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this plan anymore. He's like, it's like an at-home workout plan. I'm like, no, my mind is not here. Like I can't even function. I can't even focus on doing a workout. Like I was just so overwhelmed. And so I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know how to learn more about the disease and the treatment. And it was just too much. And so I wish that there had been access to more information in a way that was easily consumable, not a bunch of medical terms.
Right.
And I wish that I had found, like, I did find a therapist who was incredibly helpful. But I remember we both were looking for support groups for people in my situation, and nothing existed. Everything was geared towards people that were dealing with pet loss and grief related to loss, but there was nothing for anticipatory grief.
Right.
And so I felt really isolated because I didn't have anyone to talk to that was going through a similar experience, until I found people on social media and, on Facebook. And that became my community. But that's a double-edged sword because that group on Facebook, there is so much sadness and so much pain. And I was already dealing with my own. And so then it became very triggering. And I remember I had to keep snoozing the group because it was more harmful than helpful.
Right. Yeah. And well, the fact that you did that though, the fact that you snoozed it, that you were like, no, this is a lot, recognizing what your needs were, and then actually taking the action. I think that a lot of people, when they find support, finally they can get sucked in. And as you point out, like social media is a double-edged sword. That's a good way of putting it. We have and the lack of support groups. That's the other thing that you said that stood out for me. Is I really yearn for the right person, the right opportunity that can bring a group that's specifically for anticipatory grief, and then bringing awareness that people, like, that could be what you're looking for as you go to Dr. Google, as you struggle with the diagnosis, as you are struggling with the day-to-day questions and processes that your animal's going through. So and I think, and you understood that, so that's the support group that you now lead.
I mean, I saw a need, and so I went and was trying to figure out, well, if I wanted to start my own support group, what does that, how does one even do that? And luckily I found this organization in Seattle called PEER, PEER. And they offer support groups for all different topics. On site, so it's mainly in person in Capitol Hill. And they didn't have a group that would do what I wanted, but I reached out to them and I said, well, would you be open to working with me to create this group? And they said absolutely. And they would be willing to provide the space for people to meet. But they said, one of the things we also offer for free is facilitator group training. And so I went and did that, and that was, I think that was last November. So November of 2024. I did that, and that really helped me because, I then learned some tools and just what do you need to know to be a strong facilitator, a fair facilitator. Don't bring in bias or your own, issues to the group. How do you run one successfully? And so you know, it was helpful to get the training. Unfortunately, we just couldn't seem to get people to attend in person. I don't know if it was the day of the week, the time, the location. We were pretty young as an organization. Just
Yep.
marketing it, I think, was also a struggle.
Right.
But
Yeah.
fortunately, that Facebook group I had joined, you know, 2 years ago, I mean, there's now 14,000 people in that group. And so I just put the support group on Zoom. I post it every week in the Facebook group, and we, you know, now we have regular attendees, and we
Oh,
have
good.
new people join every week because they just got a diagnosis or
Uh-huh. Yeah.
their dog just passed and they just, you know, are still sort of struggling with what happened, what, you know, could I have done something differently, and they want to talk about it. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So gosh, that support group, or I'm sorry, that Facebook group, was that is like specifically for canine lymphoma then?
It is
Yeah.
specifically for canine lymphoma,
Okay.
but people talk about other topics in there, but I think everyone is there because their dog has lymphoma.
Right.
But lymphoma can be, there's different versions of lymphoma, which I also learned after joining
Oh,
in this
okay.
group.
Uh-huh.
And so, you know, there's people in there with all different types of lymphoma. Their dogs are, you know, at all different stages of the journey.
Right.
And there are people from all over the world, although they tend to be mainly in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And because I've been there now for 2 years and run the support group for the Facebook people, they also let me become a moderator in the group. So,
Oh,
you know, I'm able to just connect with people more easily, offer advice,
uh,
that type
yeah.
of thing. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But Toby's hope, I think eventually I'd like our support group to get more traction. So, you know, it doesn't have to be just people that have dogs with lymphoma. I think it really is meant to be for anyone that's dealing with, like you said, anticipatory grief,
Uh-huh.
stress, anxiety, depression, all of these illnesses because your dog is sick and you
Yeah.
just, you know, you need community to talk to. So,
Right. Yeah, yeah. It is, that community is key. Um, may yeah, we could go on and on about the need and, how to fill the need, and in so many different ways. I admire that you are, I mean, I struggle with like keeping a focus, like, oh, this is a good idea, that's a good idea, like let's just do them all, and so I admire you, like taking it stepwise and going, this, I'm on to something here with Facebook group, and let's just do that, build it there, and then expand, because I have a problem with focus. And you, as I said, I must have a problem with focus because I keep saying it.
oh,
But
or I have plenty of ideas, but I'm like, I don't know how to execute all these ideas. So I have to start somewhere. And
uh,
then slowly I've realized like this is definitely a marathon. So
not a
start
sprint.
small and go slowly.
Yeah, yeah. And has your so I understand that you work in technology, or
Mhm.
you work, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So probably that, I mean, you have to know how to manage projects.
Actually, that's
Right?
what I do for a living. I am
Yeah,
a technical
right.
program manager.
Yeah,
So,
program
yeah,
manager. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
So, well, that's interest. It's so interesting that our different experiences, we can adapt our skills and apply it to this. So, yeah. So, well, that's I love that. What are your hopes for so right now, let me back up. Right now, I'm developing a veterinary partnership product.
Mhm.
Did you have a chance to look or read it, look at that, or see what I'm doing?
I
Trying
looked at
to.
it briefly, but
Okay.
if you can give me more
Yeah.
details, that will
For
refresh my
sure.
memory.
Well, I'll just, rather than telling you what it is, I'm going to start with why.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm doing it because I always think that that's more interesting and useful. I've found that people weren't always usually not getting what they needed at their
Mhm.
veterinary clinics alone. That veterinarians are great at what they do. They're in it to win it for the
Yeah.
animals. So many of them are well intentioned when it comes to supporting clients, but they don't have time, don't have maybe, backup, staff
Yeah.
aren't necessarily trained in that, because you can't. I mean, how can you the analogy I have for that I always think about is, I don't know if you remember the Hans Christian Andersen story,
Mm-hmm.
the little boy in the dike, and he was trying to put all of his fingers in this dike that it got to the point where he couldn't, it was going to blow, and that's kind of what happens is like people come in for clients come in for one reason, and it's a half an hour long appointment, and if you last longer, you're thinking about like time is ticking. I know that happens at my vet's office, is that you can stay longer, and they actually allow up to an hour long buffer between appointments, which I'm super grateful for. But you're thinking at the same time, oh, dollar signs, that all means another 15 minutes. And people, and even at that, so you got to trade time for money, and that's important for veterinarians to keep their practices going, right? Or just like the skill set that they don't have. They're treating animals. They're not working. They go into it to work with people, and so that's what I feel like, is that there could be more support in the veterinary clinics to get clients that kind of help when they have those diagnoses, and through the treatment and through the death, and I also think that the staff can do that as well if they're well trained and inspired. So, okay, so with that background, you may or may not, I didn't hear you say anything about your veterinary clinic and how they supported you, but I did hear you say Dr. Google, and going and searching frantically and so forth. So, we're always looking for answers to the questions we have, and not always necessarily getting them through our veterinary clinic. So with all of that in mind, maybe you can just speak to your experience, and do you find a need for that? How do you think that problem can be solved?
Yeah, I think my experience is that, or was, there's a lot of variation from one vet clinic to the next in how they share the information with you. Is it too medical or clinical in nature? Is it sort of dumbed down for you in it like basic English? That really is, I think I've seen the whole span of the spectrum there. And then what do they give you? So, some have done like visual drawings on a whiteboard to help me, really understand what they're talking about. Other people have just like talked at me for like 20 minutes, and then I guess they expect that you understand or are retaining everything. Very few have given me like documents that I can take home with me. Like I would love, I think that Toby's Hope hopefully can create something like a lymphoma pamphlet. Like all the things you need to know, or at least the top 10 things you need to know about lymphoma. If your dog gets a diagnosis on lymphoma, here you go. And the vet would give that to you. So, I think there's definitely opportunities. I think like you said, they're overwhelmed. They are short on time, and they're trying to take a lot of information and share it with you quickly. And I think, unfortunately, the expectation is like that you can process that really fast and be able to ask intelligent questions and unfortunately,
hold it together, right?
Yeah, that's just not reality, because, mentally you're afraid, you're scared, you're stressed, you're nervous, you're sad, you're angry, you're all these emotions. And so how are you supposed to take all what they're saying and then do something intelligent with it? Like, sadly, have to make really important decisions sometimes, in that appointment itself. I know it's been a subject for our team, and how can we help vets as well? And one of the things, like that pamphlet, was just one idea, but we're also looking at it through the lens of inclusivity for patients. How do we better promote inclusivity for them? So, maybe everyone's first language is not English, And so now take that as a complication if you're getting this, medical diagnosis and trying to understand what they're telling you. Maybe people have less access to get to appointments during normal business hours. Maybe, they live or work in areas that are far from Seattle. And so how do we accommodate people more so in a more inclusive way, make access to the information and the care easier? These are some of the things that we've been thinking about, and how can we next year think about how we could maybe influence some of those problems that we see.
Yeah. Good. Well, good. That's a great direction. So important. I can hear your support group is successful and expanding, and then just other ways that you can branch out. And I agree that, written information that people can reflect on later is so important.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think that um, Toby's Hope will be able to inspire and impact other families like going forward? How do you feel like, besides the support group, besides the pamphlets, what are some other ways that you hope to make a difference? Is it reaching the pet parents specifically, like you've been doing, or branching out and reaching vets who, they are the ones that seeing primary, but they are the primary focus of contact with those. What do you are going to do both, or?
I think it's both. So I think this year we've learned that we need to be out and about and like be visible, whether it's at events where people bring their dogs, on social media, other ways that people can be aware that we're here as a resource, that we exist. So if you need some help, we're here to do that. I think, but you're right, where we've seen the most success, I think, in getting people to realize we're here is actually coming through vets. So educating vets and oncologists that we're here and helping them realize, hey, if you have a patient that comes in and they get this diagnosis and they seem like they're struggling, or they mention, oh, I can't afford care, like this is way too expensive, that's a trigger now for you to tell them about us, give them a pamphlet, point them to our website, and let them know there is a local nonprofit that could help. So I think we've done a little bit of both this year, and I'm starting to see it is helping, because now we are starting to receive more applications for help, and everybody is saying that they heard about us through their vet.
Oh, good.
So that is working, and oncologists, I really have spent a lot of time forming good relationships with a lot of the Seattle area oncology clinics.
Good.
So they know me by a first name basis when I call.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And so that has also been really helpful in, they know we're here. How can we leverage them? And so next year, I'm hoping that we can do more like, I don't know if it's partnerships or sponsorships with some of these vets and oncologists. Like, let's do an event and get the public involved, but then leverage the vets and the oncologists to maybe help cover some of the costs, or bring free swag to entice people, or help us with marketing, whether it's at their clinics or on their social medias. So I think there's a win-win. They can help their patients, and we can get more visibility and help more people, then everybody wins. So I'm hoping we can do more of that next year.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think that branching out more and more veterinarians are understanding like the intense human animal bond, we call it.
Yeah.
That people have. I mean, it's been around, for decades, but I think that we're really starting, there's an association, a veterinary association for the human animal bond. And there are people that are really turning to that in the clinics and realizing, like practice managers and veterinarian owners, and even some of the corporates, realize that people need more than what what their general services can provide, so
Yeah, yeah,
I
absolutely.
can see why I can see why Toby's Hope would be like, oh my gosh, when you come in, or when they're able to, the families are reaching out and asking them for help, that they have a resource, that's got
Hmm.
to feel really good to the
Yeah,
staff members and the veterinarians. I really could
yeah.
help.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've had several of the receptionists and the vet techs that work at Bridge Animal Referral Center in Edmonds bark.
Right.
Like, again, they know me on a first name basis, but they now know when people are at the front desk and they're sort of chit-chatting, they're the ones that are getting sort of the inside information on how people are doing, what they're
Yeah.
struggling with, because they have the time to have those conversations, not necessarily the vet or the oncologist. And so
Right.
they are the ones that are saying, hey, there's this nonprofit, Toby's Hope, like, here's the website, you should reach out to them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
multiple, it's really been amazing, and I think I'm so grateful for all of their support in seeing, like, we're here, we're trying to make a difference, like, help us help them.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
good.
Yeah. So how many would you say are like referrals, first contacts, people reaching out, are coming from your Facebook group efforts and your support group? I guess word of mouth probably happens too in there. The pet parents directly from the social media and so forth. And how many, like if you want to just give percentages or
Yeah.
numbers per month, are reaching you through the veterinary clinics, oncologists, and
Yeah.
RDVMs?
I would say it's probably at least 80% of our referrals have come through veterinary clinics and just appointments.
Yeah.
They either have gone to the vet and are, have that lymphoma diagnosis and are now in need of financial assistance, but they're
Uh-huh.
also reaching out because I've received emails. Sometimes they don't need assistance. They're actually interested in the support group and they want to know more about when it is, how do I join?
Mhm.
So, both of those
Good.
programs that we are offering is helpful to people and
Yeah.
hearing about it from their vet. I think the
Right. Good.
Facebook group, everyone in there, because it's nationwide, they're
Hmm.
not always that interested in our financial assistance program because we tend to focus on just Washington State.
Right. Right.
Um, but
Okay.
they are spreading the news about the support group to other people in the group.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so then other people are joining because, they see somebody else mention it or talk
Hmm.
about it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Well, it's definitely, the organization becomes more sustainable and you're able to help more people if you go to those, like, shall we call it, like the big sources of referrals,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah. And recognizing that this part's working and I got to do more of that, and so forth. So do you
yeah.
think, that other, like, Toby Soap focuses on canine lymphoma. So do you think that other similar organizations as yours will be popping up, or do you know of them that exist
Oh, yeah.
already,
There,
that
there's a
are
lot of
that?
them.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
there's
like,
quite a few out there.
okay, and how, maybe you can, like, tell me just for some examples, what disease specific conditions there are for dogs and for cats that are actually doing what you're doing and focusing on local efforts to help people financially and support groups nationwide.
Yeah, so
What?
there are other nonprofits around the country that help with financial assistance
uh,
for cancer treatment.
uh-huh.
So two that stand out and two that I've actually spoken to when we first started, because I was like, oh, well, talk to the people that are already doing this to get some
Yeah.
sense of how did they set theirs up and, what are any lessons learned that they can share.
Right.
One is Live Like Rue. They're based out of the Chicago area.
Okay.
And then the other is Miranda's People. They are based out of the Northern California,
Okay.
that area.
Uh-huh.
And they both, their primary focus is financial aid. Although Live Like Rue has started to do, I think, a partnership with like a third party that can offer discounted therapy
Oh,
for those that
that's
are
great.
looking for talking to someone.
Okay.
Um, and they don't focus on lymphoma only. I think they provide assistance for any type of cancer.
Okay.
And they accept applications from anyone from anywhere.
Uh-huh.
Um, I think where we are a little bit unique is we are the only nonprofit that does what we do for Washington State specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to do something that was community focused. And we started with lymphoma because A, it was personal, it was what Toby had gone through and sort of
Right.
what I knew.
Yeah.
But also because the treatment plans are fairly straightforward and they're in a cost sort of area that we knew we could make an impact with even a few $1,000s. Some
Okay.
other cancers, the treatments really can vary. It can be much more expensive. And we knew as, a young sort of startup, we
Yeah.
wouldn't have the funding to
Right.
really make enough of an impact. Like,
Right.
and we want to help as many people as possible. So our grants, we're not granting people like $10,000. Like
Right.
we can't do that. But I know like Live Like Rue, if you go to their website, I mean, they've raised in the millions. I think they've been around for, I think almost or over 10 years. They've helped thousands of dogs. So,
Wow.
they've really come up with a formula that works. And I told Sarah, she's the executive director, I was like, you're my hero. I want to be like you someday.
Oh yeah. Well, it's great if you can get a partnership or a sponsor that can, I mean, that's just a landslide, event.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
yeah. And so she's really, I mean, she gave me some great advice on like how they started and,
oh, good.
where they started to branch out into different things and how they've raised money. I think that's one of the challenges that we face is, we rely so heavily on donations. So how can we diversify our funding so that, in one area, if it starts to slow down, we can rely on other areas. And so that's part of the whole, I think, learning curve for me. Like, I don't have any nonprofit experience. So, learning about how grants work and applying for grants and funding sources and
Uh-huh.
just partnerships and sponsorships and all of
Yeah.
these things, I think we're thinking about how to do it, but we're not there yet. And I hope next year we can start to see some growth in those spaces.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there's been a lot of like local businesses that have expressed interest in helping us. So
Oh, good.
how do we like take it to the next level to, turn that into actual dollars?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, we'll see.
That's a yeah, someone with business acumen can be invaluable for, I think, the stage where you're at. I mean, grant writing is not an easy thing,
Yeah.
and
No,
and
no.
going through that in today's economy, especially, it's hard. It's not easy for,
It's very
uh,
competitive. Yeah.
yeah, very competitive. Yeah. And in AHELP, we found that people, after we have given them assistance, we're not fundraising. We're in the field of supporting. So they say that time is money. I'm giving the donations that we get are a lot of time. We give a lot of
Yeah.
time to people, and with sometimes not a clear message that we are donation funded. That's probably on me. I give you a lot of credit because you're doing both, and you recognize that time and money are both involved to make your mission, accomplish your mission. So, um, so on that, in order, can you remind me, like, do you have what do you say your mission is I mean, that's every nonprofit director has to have that on their tip of their tongue. What's your mission and vision for Toby's Hope? And so, like, your vision, what do you want to see? A world that looks like what?
My vision would be that everyone that gets a cancer diagnosis for their dog gets the resources that they need. And those resources could be financial resources, mental health resources, whatever. But that whatever you need, you have access to it.
Right, right.
Ultimately, that's what I would love to be able to see.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah. And that is not just an aspirational goal, you're doing it now. So
We're
yeah,
trying.
yeah. Well, it's like baby steps, like anything in
Yeah.
a nonprofit, in the nonprofit world. I know I continue to try after 15 years, so we got when we still have a long way to go. So what do you think that how do you plan to continue Toby's legacy? Are you bringing that in with the stories that you tell, it like ways like this, or how are you inspiring veterinarians? Like they really need this. Your pet parents really need this. Your clients need to have this. Are they getting it? It sounds like some of them are, but then others are missing out.
Yeah, I think it's continuing to educate and create awareness among oncologists that were here. I've shared Toby's story with so many of them, whether it was like at a conference that happened in Olympia at the beginning of the year,
Oh,
or
good. Uh-huh.
just like one-on-one meetings that I've had with them,
Was that
whether
the Washington State VMA? Was that, what
no,
did you, oh, okay.
it was like a local, like the Pacific Northwest Oncology
Oh,
group.
oh,
They
okay,
have
okay.
like and it includes, I think, some people also that come from California and then Idaho, Oregon, Washington.
Oh, okay, okay, all right. Well,
Yeah.
that's a good group.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So that was really helpful to get in front of them. And it was very early days of when we had just started sharing the story. And similarly, when I told them, Toby's still alive, like everybody cheered.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they were like, "Oh my God, he's still here." I was like, "Yeah, still fighting."
yeah,
Um, but
that's
that's
great.
that's definitely, I want to be able to continue to share, you know, dogs have so much resilience and they and him deserve a chance, and finances shouldn't prevent you and your dog from getting the best possible care that could help them.
Right.
And so I think that resonates with people. I think most people I know don't really understand how expensive these treatments are, and what the costs are. And so that's also part of my sort of mission, is to educate people, and share Toby's story, educate on what cancer means for you and your dog if you get this diagnosis, and how do you take care of yourself in the process, because it's not just managing their care and being a caretaker, but then how do you take care of yourself?
Right.
Because my experience, I was a wreck, and
Yeah.
I really needed to talk to someone. I needed to take medication. Like I, I had all of the problems, and maybe I was an extreme case. I don't know, but um,
Yeah. Yeah.
people need to be aware, like
Yeah.
your life could drastically change. And so how do you prepare and take care of yourself for that? So,
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll just say a quick word about that is we work with a lot of people who are experiencing sometimes in very vulnerably, but sometimes they're feeling ashamed that they are not functioning well, that like they had
yeah,
to admit the fact that you're sharing that
yeah,
brings awareness to the whole thing that we call pet caregiver burden. And people don't feel like it's a burden at the time. They don't want to give that impression. In fact, the tale that we just published this month, is speaking to pet caregiver burden. But I think just letting people know that they're not alone in
yeah, 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 yeah,
that feeling. I think right there, you're serving. all animal lovers, you know. I mean, we all
Yeah.
have experienced them, cats, dogs, cancer, you know, everything.
Yeah.
It happens, and the fact that there are resources like Toby's Hope is amazing. So,
Thank you.
so one last question. You're welcome. One last question. If Toby could speak,
Mhm.
what would he want on, because it's clear that it was all on behalf of him and his legacy. What would he want one, other caregivers like yourself to know, and then two, other dogs that have cancer? What would you say
Hmm.
Toby would say?
He would say for caretakers, like, thank you for all you do. Don't be so hard on yourself. You know, you're doing enough. Um, and it's okay to have bad days. It's okay to be sort of burned out at times. I love you regardless. And I'm just
Yeah.
so, grateful. Like they are grateful and they just want to be with us. So,
Yeah.
focus on that. As far
Yeah.
as other dogs, I would say be resilient, don't give up. It can be hard and it can be scary, but know that your person loves you and is there to take care of you, and you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would leave it at that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll see you at the Rainbow Bridge if that's what you're consistent with your faith tradition.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
I do believe that. I feel like, Toby's spirit is with God. He's being well
yeah,
taken care of, waiting for me to join him someday. And
yeah,
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 now it's just a matter of, how do you continue to move forward, honoring them, missing them, but like be continuing to live. Like it can be
yeah,
challenging.
totally. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Live on in spirit. Yeah. So, well, gosh, thank you for
Yeah, of
sharing
course.
Toby's story and your heart and
Thank
soul
you.
and putting it out there. And it's not easy, and like we keep talking about good days and bad days,
Yeah.
but it's been a space for me to understand better your journey. I haven't been through it, but there are so many things that resonate, and I
Oh,
know that
thank
it
you.
will with other pet parents. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's
And I
cool.
think I'm hoping that part of what we're trying to work on in our offering too is like, how do I create better access for people to talk to someone like a licensed therapist? And I'm trying to find more therapists that are willing to work with us to say, Toby's Hope is willing to, for anyone that applies to a grant to Toby's Hope, is obviously in need. So we want to be able to give them like 2 complimentary therapist sessions.
Oh, good.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I'm trying to find more therapists that are, that have expertise in
Uh-huh.
pet specifically, and
Yeah.
pet loss, pet
Yeah.
anticipatory grief,
Oh,
and that
good.
have an interest in that. So if you know of
Yeah.
anyone, send them my
Oh,
way.
oh yeah. Well, that's not easy because
Yeah.
not everyone is number one interested in pet loss. I've been through the experiences that we have,
Yeah.
and felt like they could really help afterward. Like not everybody feels they made the right decisions and went the right way, and then they
Oh,
don't really
yeah.
want to share that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it brings up like triggering, like you said, brings up things for them. I mean, therapists are humans too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
There's
so you
definitely
do
some
have,
ladies I know that are
oh,
struggling with
good.
that. So
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
okay, I need to find more therapists that have an
Yeah,
interest
okay.
in this
And
space.
and and what else? So therapists connections, and obviously donations. I mean, we that's been the biggest one of the biggest sources of to
Yeah.
keep my organization sustainable is people who in retrospect maybe didn't have the money at the time but then want to give back afterward.
Yeah.
And so that's also something that you I'm sure is part of your strategy to continue to help more families. Is there anything else that any other way that people get help? I mean, like, are you
Oh,
looking
yeah.
for volunteers? And
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. We are actively right now looking for someone that is interested in doing social media.
okay,
I do it all,
good.
but I don't have
Uh-huh.
time for this.
I know it could be it's a full-time job. That people have jobs like you're all
I was
around it.
like,
Yeah.
I wear so many hats. I'm like, I can't keep up. So,
That's a
someone
nonprofit
that,
founder.
someone that has an interest in
Yeah,
doing that.
yeah, yeah,
And then, whenever we do these events, it's like, we just need people there to, maybe for a few hours, not even the whole time, but just are interested in handing out pamphlets, talking about Toby's Hope,
yeah, yeah,
processing donations, things like that. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. And they would go to your website and contact you that way?
yeah,
Yeah.
yep, they can
Okay.
do that. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'll put the information for Toby's Hope. Is it like tobyshope.org kind of thing? What
Yep,
is your
that's
URL?
it.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that's it.
Per-
Toby'sHope.org.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. This has been great.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I hope that you found it. Toby obviously clearly lives on through you, and so be able to tell your story to more people. I hope we can help do that, and yeah,
Thank
more
you.
working
Yeah.
together. Yeah.
I appreciate
So
that. I hope we can reach more people. I hope we can help more people. I
yeah,
hope people, start to become more aware of like cancer in dogs
yeah,
and pet insurance and,
right.
all these different topics. I was at an event over the weekend and, gave our flyer to someone and I was like, yeah, 1 in 3 dogs will develop cancer. And he looked at me and he was like, what? I was
Yeah,
like, yes, start to
yeah,
become familiar. Like,
yeah,
don't be like me and be in shock when it happens,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Reach more families. Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks. I'm sure you will. You're on a great path to doing that. So super. Well,
All right.
thank you
Thank you so much,
again.
Michelle.
Thanks for your time. Yeah, and
Absolutely.
we'll be in touch.
All
Okay?
right.
Yeah,
Sounds
I hope
great.
so.
Take care.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye.